everybody. Welcome back to the Collective, where we're doing another live chat like we do every day. We got some good information. I don't have any guests today, though, so it's just you and I.
Dude, don't say so. It's guests or not, we're still gonna have a good time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We do every day. It's pretty sweet. I'm actually really enjoying these daily chats and and all the stuff we come up with. It's exciting. I'm really
It's
enjoying it.
ridiculous.
Yeah. And
One day you're gonna be famous,
one day.
bringing all that heat.
Yeah, if you know what, if we get any more of the Winter Storm 427 on here, we're gonna be
Man,
rolling in the heat. He
that
was
guy or
bringing it.
girl, I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm not
They were
sure
bringing it. Yeah,
they're on it. I think they might have a new hobby.
Watching us.
Brain puzzling us.
Brain puzzling us. I like it. Nothing quite like a stumped question that not quite stumps us, but actually makes us
It was good.
think.
I
Man,
love that
there were
kind of
lots.
thing.
Yeah.
That was good interaction.
Apparently, I'm already famous.
That's true. For some time now.
For some time, yeah. We've been doing pretty good lately, I think. So, do you want to dive right into a question? You got anything off the top of your head that you want to talk about?
No, I don't.
beforehand,
I
or
mean,
we
I
can-
just finished literally 3 or 4
Mhm.
minutes ago with Yuri in Ukraine, and by
That's
finished, I
pretty
mean
nice.
bummer that we didn't get to continue. I could talk with that guy all day. I could talk with you all day.
We could.
But there's time limits to these things, and so just finish up that conversation with him, and we'll get back into it on knife fighting and all that good
That was cool, man.
stuff.
That was good information, just in
Mhm.
general.
Yeah,
Looks
thanks.
like, oh yeah, I guess it's not even me. Big Bird's just famous because of Sesame Street.
That's right. You were preceded by someone far more famous.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Satch is here.
Hey, buddy.
Background's looking good. Yeah, this is off the website, so it.
I dig it.
If you haven't checked it out yet, go to the website. You know, it's on the little ticker below us. You can see it right there. Definitely head over there, check it out. We got all of the videos that we have done up to this point are on there, and it's awesome. Oh, look who we got, John.
Oh, look at that,
What's up,
John.
John? How's it going? And boom, Winter Storm 427 is back.
Trouble's back.
We got the heat. Although,
dude, you broke my. I say, dude, whoever you are, you broke my brain yesterday with that question on accountability, and it's not that like. So Chance, you probably don't have that question hanging around that you can put back up on accountability. If you
I can
did,
get it up.
that would be fantastic.
You chat for a minute, and I'll
I'll
find it.
Because I wanna give kudos to Winter Storm 427, mostly for this because of the engagement, like banging out and being present during these conversations, but thinking outside of the box a little bit, not just hitting it with the standard issue. What color is the sun, or what time is it there, or is it raining? I mean, these are relevant questions that were causing us to think a little bit deeper, which I believe was the intention of Winter Storm 427. And so the question about accountability, that was a struggle for me because, as I recall, it was my issue in answering the question was I hold myself accountable like all the freaking time at maximum velocity accountability. But I know there's times that I haven't done it well in the past, but I thought I was doing it well in the past. And my answer kind of went along the lines of, and the guys to my left and right, that's what kept me accountable. And that's what helped me understand what accountability looks like and means to me and et cetera. But I thought about it some more, and I could probably do an entire podcast episode on just accountability. So, and I'm not going to jump into that right now. I just wanted to give a shout out to Winter Storm 427 for nearly breaking my brain yesterday. That rarely happens.
Almost
so thanks,
broke the brain. Yeah,
dude, or whatever.
Let me. I found it. I'm just going to pull it up here. That way we can all look at it. Once I actually get it up. There we go. So boom. Got that. Share the screen. Here we go. Share. There we go.
NASA doesn't launch the rockets like that.
No, it's pretty
Oh, that's good though, pal. It was worth the wait.
There you go.
I like that.
Worth the wait. I like it. So, do any of you have a time where you thought you were taking accountability for something and then realized you hadn't? And if you did, what did you do to fix that? Yeah, 100%. There were a few. We
Hop off, pal. Like, just hop into that right away if you want.
Wilco. So I did. There's a couple of times I've done this actually. One of the times was first off with my kids. That was a big one where I thought I was taking accountability based on my actions around them and expecting certain results. So I would say, oh, you need to do this or you need to do this, and then it wasn't until for a little while until I realized that I wasn't doing it to begin with. And so I was expecting my kids to do something that I wasn't actually being accountable for. And I thought I was being accountable by teaching them, hey, this is the way it should be done. But I wasn't the one actually doing it. I was
Mm,
expecting someone else to do it. And
mm.
once I actually realized that, I stopped getting upset at the lack of
Outcome.
movement or outcome of it. And I started realizing that I needed to do it. And one of the ones was like super simple, making my bed first thing in the morning. Boom, wake up, make my bed. You roll out of bed, you throw your sheets back on, done. Like it literally takes a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was telling my boys like, hey, you need to make your bed first thing in the morning. You roll out of bed, make your bed. And I realized I wasn't doing it. And that was just like that's
Right.
a very brief one, but
Leadership by example.
that's exactly it. And then once I started doing it, they made it much easier for them to do it. When there's a few other times within the military, but that is probably the most glaringly obvious point that I thought I was taking accountability by trying to make them better.
But it
Where
requires reflection
mm,
because I'm sure that for more than at least one day, maybe 2 or 3 days, you were not making your bed, but chirping at your boys to make their beds.
mhm,
So we don't need to know how many days it was that you weren't doing your part while asking them to do their part. So you weren't leading by example for however long, doesn't
mhm,
matter how long. But at some point, you realize that you weren't. And that
yeah,
takes reflection. I mean,
mhm,
if you ain't reflecting, then you ain't changing.
yeah,
Because if you ain't reflecting, you ain't making your bed.
that's right.
And so first of all, you've got to reflect. And then once you've reflected, you've got to ascertain, am I leading by example or not? And then once you realize that you're not, start freaking leading by example.
Yeah. The big question that I asked myself was, what are my expectations? And once I actually figured out what my expectations were,
Of you or your boys?
well, of my boys, I was like, what are my expectations?
Ah,
And my expectation was for them to do it without it being thought. And as I worked through that thought process, and I was like, I want them to be able to utilize this as a skill set that they don't have to um, manage or like continually think about, like, oh my God, I gotta make my bed in the morning. I want it to become a consistent enough thing that they don't have to think about it. What
let me
happened was,
challenge you with something.
okay,
So what if you didn't have boys?
I do the same thing.
Ah, but you weren't.
And what do you mean?
You weren't making your bed.
Oh
And
yeah.
it took your boys to cause you to start making your bed.
Hmm.
So what if you didn't have boys? What if you didn't have anyone in your life?
Oh, like no, like if I didn't have kids, well, then I wouldn't have that immediate reflection, and it would either take me a
Oh, now
longer
we're getting
time.
somewhere.
Yeah, and this is the best thing about kids, man. They are a complete and utter mirror.
But I don't want to talk about that. I
No,
want to talk about if you don't have kids. That was my question.
okay, well, if you don't have kids, so before I had kids, let's talk about that. Before I had kids, I was in a very reactive place in my own head, right? I was not looking for what I could do better. I was looking around saying, why isn't everybody else doing X? So I was not looking inwards at all.
That's my point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's 100% true. I would the way that I actually figured out how to look inwards was by having a physical walking mirror that does everything that I was doing and all the things.
So
So,
so it took kids for you to start holding yourself accountable.
yep.
It took
Yep.
kids for you to realize that you needed to lead by example. But it
So,
shouldn't. No, hang on a
okay.
sec.
Yep. Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
Because that's what we're talking about is you then decided to start leading leading by example by making your own bed so that your kids would start understanding that and get the outcome that you wanted. But without kids, how are you supposed to get the outcome that you need yourself? And so, because you weren't reflecting on it
Mhm.
until you had kids. And so, um, so you were viewing the world around you for accountability as yardsticking against someone else
Mhm.
rather than yardsticking yourself. You weren't facing yourself honestly and
100%.
realizing what things you needed to change in order for you, in absence of anyone else around you, just you to start leading by example within your own life so that maybe one day someone might notice that you've been a relentless bed maker or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think the reason I am being specific or particular about this question is for anyone out there, not everyone has kids. Maybe it's just a guy by himself in his basement wondering what's what.
Mhm.
You got to hold yourself accountable as if no one is watching you. I mean, you just have to get right with the idea of working on yourself
Yeah.
and improving yourself. And over time, maybe someone will notice. And if they do notice, well, maybe you're now helping to improve someone else's life by doing your best and them getting to see you doing your best and them realizing that, hey, I too can do my best. And
Mhm.
that's how it starts. It shouldn't have to rely on a random moment of a black cat walking in front of you. And now you're running your life off of a black cat.
Yeah.
I mean, look at yourself, run your own life a little more optimally, and then start exposing goodness to the world. And hopefully it'll start following in step.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I actually, what I realized eventually was that I had relied upon enforced discipline, right, from the military. Was that it was, you if you were in the shacks, you had to expect that you were going to be inspected at some point. So you had to keep your bed made, and you had to keep your stuff shining, you had to blah 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 blah.
Yeah, like every day, several times a day.
Yeah, and all of that, I relied upon the outside force to keep me in check, right? Whereas
It's normal.
eventually,
That's why I
yeah,
asked the question.
and eventually, once, like I said, when I had kids and stuff, was that it really, uh, that was the mirror that I needed, because that's what, like, you in order to change, you have to have the insight. You have to be able to look inside yourself, whether that be a physical mirror or a subjective mirror or an actual little child that is doing all the things that you're doing that you then look at and go, I don't like that. Uh, Once you have that mirror and you're actively willing to change, the big one is, sure, you can see things that you don't like. You might see things that you don't like in yourself, but if you're not willing to change it, nothing's going to happen.
That's right. And so for everyone out there who doesn't have kids and doesn't have the luxury of a little moving mirror in front of you and thinking, wow, I suck because my kid's not doing it right. It must be my fault, which is the right idea, of course, by
Yep.
the way. But if you don't have kids, guy or girl, you've got zero kids, you've got zero mirror to reflect against. You know what you do have? The freaking mirror in front of you.
Hmm.
You standing looking at yourself in a mirror and thinking, am I really running my game properly? Am I really making my best effort? How can I do it better? And so now you get a choice. You get to stare at that mirror forever until an answer shows up, which it may not. Or you can stare at that mirror and think, I'm not really coming up with any real good ideas right now. I know that Jocko says every morning I'm supposed to make my bed, but what does that guy know? And
Hmm.
so I'm not going to make my bed. It's not going to change my life. I'm just going to live without ever making a bed forever. And so hopefully I'll just get lucky and someday my life will get really good and magically and it'll all line itself up perfectly and everything's going to be sweet. That never happens.
No.
It's an active process. And so if you want to ignore Jocko's rule of thumb of make your bed, cool. Don't make your bed. And before too long, what's going to happen is you're going to wake up one morning and as you're rolling out of bed not making it, you're going to put your foot down on about 100 wrappers of empty bags of chips.
Garbage, yeah.
Garbage. One foot will go in the 7-Eleven Slurpee jug, and the other one will go in a bag of Doritos. And so, and then You get to stand up and kick them off your feet and think, time to get on with it. And then the next day, there's more garbage on your floor. And the next day, your slippers are made of like, the next bag of garbage that you wake up and
Rats,
put them in. Yeah,
literal rats.
that's right, literally rats. And so, at what point do you wake up? Well, here's a good way to wake up. Put yourself in the mindset of you're now an 8-year-old boy, as an example, and you're living in filth, hoping that the door doesn't swing open and your dad says, "What is even going on here? Let's get this nonsense sorted out. And
Yep.
then we need to sit down and have a chat." And so, I mean, if you can't do it for yourself, take a second and put yourself into the shoes of a kid and how your dad would view that room. I mean, it
Mhm.
sounds goofy for an adult to be wearing Dorito bag slippers and then having to put their head into the mindset of what would my dad say if
Yeah.
he saw this? You're a grown man with Dorito slippers. That should be the first sign that you've got to change. But if that
That's a
doesn't come
pretty
to
good.
mind, then your next thought should be, what would my dad think? How
Yeah.
disappointed would my dad be?
Yeah.
And so that's what's happening is you're disappointing the people around you because you're better than that.
Yeah.
There was a time in your life when you weren't wearing freaking Dorito slippers. So shake your head. I don't know how bad it's got to get sometimes for some folks out there. Pretty bad is what I hear, that it can get like double Dorito slippers.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at that moment, moment, whatever it takes for you to like snap to and think, this has gone a bit sideways. Well, now you get to decide in the Dorito slipper moment what you're going to do about it. And you got to change. You
Yep.
know that.
Yep.
Everyone knows that. But how do you change? Well, again, we've talked about it. Tactically and strategically, you've got to come up with a plan to make positive changes. And if you can't do that all by yourself, you got to start looking around for help. You got to start looking around for good advice. You got to look for mentors, someone who's going to inspire you, someone who's going to lead you, someone who's been there themselves and has figured out a way to move forward. And there's lots of personalities out there on the internet that can help you do that. But
Mhm.
you've got to reach out, not physically. And you've got to reach out, not like with tons of DMs or emails to Jocko, but you've got to reach out, get engaged in listening, paying attention to just do it better. Just listen for a
Yeah.
while, watch a few Jocko videos, and then get your act together
Yeah.
day by day.
Yeah. I did a podcast a little bit ago with a guy named Fran Recchiopi, I think. I don't remember how to pronounce his last name very well. He's a former Green Beret, but we were talking, and he said, he said, hope is not a plan of action. And I was like,
That's age old. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Because as much as you want things to happen, unless you actually take action on them, there's no
In,
reason.
in fact, it's not even, I'd rephrase that. At least I've rephrased it in my mind years ago.
Hmm.
Not only is hope not a plan of action, hope is a distraction.
Ooh, that's a good way to look at it.
But am I wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely right, and it really will. If there's a point, I think hope or faith or um, those things, they have a place in your head, but they are not in the place that most people think they should be. If you know what I'm saying. And there's
I do, because I have a sentence for it.
Giver.
Precisely. The sentence that I've been using for 3 decades or
Hmm.
more, and it's this: plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Yep,
I've said that 1 bajillion times
that's
to
a great line.
countless people
Yeah,
all over the world. Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
yeah,
But I ain't hoping ever. I'm planning for the worst and getting on with it. And when things go sideways, I hope it works out well.
hmm,
But I ain't counting on hope. I'm
and
going
you're
to
ready.
keep on
Yeah,
planning on sorting the problem out.
yeah, and you're ready to manage.
That's right.
So we have quite the conversation going on in the comments here. It's
Oh, is that
pretty cool.
right?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not
man.
I
We
can't see any of the comments. Is there any way
we
to put live comments up or
well, I have to throw them up individually, but
okay,
we'll put them. I'll go through them because
still
there's
test
quite a bit
driving
here.
the system.
Yeah. So we got thoughts, words, hydration, sleep, nutrition, breath, and movement. Your thoughts on why these are important to be instilled. How some may seek to do so.
I got a
Mm,
great well, I say great answer. I've got a the first answer that snaps to mind is the right answer in my mind,
mhm,
and it's this. All of those things, thoughts, words, hydration, sleep, nutrition, breath, and movement, and many more, are things that I talk about on the regular, all the time, with tons of people who hit me up with questions. And so, let me say this: whether Daniel had said thoughts, words, and hydration and stopped there, or whether he'd continue with sleep, nutrition, breath, and movement, and all the other things that you can focus on in order to improve your life, if he was still writing things out, another 100 things that you can do on what's important, it's less about how many things you write down on your journal on what you need to focus on, and it's just the fact that you're thinking about it.
mhm,
The very fact that you're considering what you can do to do better, the things that you're thinking about on what is important. If you're starting to have those conversations like what is important to improve, you're already long on your way to improving. You're already way past the start line.
yeah,
So the fact that anyone, not Daniel per se, but anyone is thinking about how to do it better, congratulations, you're now a winner, in my
mhm,
opinion. And so I think it's important to consider all of the nuances of how to do things better, but just take a moment to pat yourself on the back, whoever you are, and give yourself an attaboy that you're even considering the importance of what it is that's going to make me get better.
yeah. I call them little wins. You gotta mark them. Little win. Yeah, that was good. You know, you get. I think I've told the story before, but I had a gentleman at the BJJ club. He showed up injured, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, I really wish I could do more. I kind of want to roll." And I'm like, "Dude, just showing up injured, that's the win, right? You could have stayed home. It took a 6 or 7 step process to even get here to just watch, let alone the fact that you feel bad about not being able to improve yourself in this moment is that in this moment you are improving yourself, and you need to take that as a win and go, yeah, good job,
Agreed.
and then move on. And that's the other part was I was talking to another Green Beret actually, my buddy Chris. We were talking about starting small. A lot of people that when they, I want to be better, and then they go, okay, I'm gonna eat right, I'm gonna start exercising, and I'm gonna sleep at the right time.
See you
And
next year when you don't do anything.
exactly. And so the thing that we were talking about was just start small. Start on one thing. Pick one and work on that until you can get to a point where that becomes either second nature, or it's part of your schedule so that it becomes a non-negotiable, or it's a point where you don't have to think about, oh my god, I got to get this done. You're just gonna part of the day, just work
I,
through it.
I would say there's a step before that.
Oh, okay.
And I've actually said this to you, and we've actually
I think
had
we talked about
this.
this. Yeah.
We we've actually done it. I've had us do it
Hmm.
as a task, and we executed against it, and we both looked at each other and nodded and said, "Yeah." And so it kind of went like this, bro. I don't care. We're gonna get a small win today.
Hmm.
A small win. I don't care what it is. We're ending the day with a small win. And so you can put a big magician hat in front of you and fill it with all your problems, all the things that you want to do when you grow up, all of that good stuff, all of the things that you won't do anything about but you want to do something about. Put them all in your big magician hat. Stir them around. Doesn't matter to me what you pull out. Read it and think, that's what I'm going to get done today with a win. S- Start the process by little wins on
Hmm.
anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It really doesn't matter. Get a win.
Yep.
Start stacking up some wins throughout the week. Tiny little, almost inconsequential. Doesn't even matter. Start working on your World Macrame Award or whatever. Does not matter.
Yep.
Because the difference between a winner and a loser is one stays the same, the other starts working on winning.
Yeah.
Wins, any kinds of wins, tiny, tiny little wins. Start banging those out. And
Yep.
once you start feeling like you're winning a little bit, now you can start focusing on the task that you're now going to assign yourself to. Because there's no point in, this is going to sound crude. It's not going to be polished. It's not going to be nuanced, this conversation, this sentence that I'm going to state. And it's going to feel rough to some people. But I'll say this, if you've been a loser all your life, it's hard to look at that list of things to do and say, I'm going to go smash out a home run and I'm going to nail my nutrition today. I'm going to become a nutrition subject matter expert today. No, you're not.
In this instant, yeah.
No, you're not. And here's why. Because you're a freaking loser in your mind. You've assigned yourself as a loser. You haven't had a win in years. You don't think you're capable of winning. And so you think that you're a loser. And so you're not. It's just that you haven't chipped out a tiny little win in so long that you haven't felt like a winner in a long time.
Yeah.
Find something small. By the end of today, win. And then tomorrow, win. And then do a week's worth of tiny little wins. And now you're not feeling like a loser.
Yeah.
And now you can look at that list of things that you want to get done and build off of a position of feeling like a little bit of a winner, like there's actually a path forward where you feel like, oh, so that's what little wins feel like. That's what fuel feels like. That's what being better feels like. Oh, now I get it. Now I see that it's a worthwhile pursuit.
Yeah. Yeah. I could not agree more. And you're right. We did that with the collective as we were getting it started and
100%.
as we were doing all the things. And it's also, I don't think it eliminates this, but it mitigates it pretty well, is the mission creep of, well, I have to do that and then this and then these things and those things and that and blah, blah, blah. I need this done. Do it.
And again, it seems so crude to say this, the loser mentality. When I say someone's using a loser mentality, I'm not saying that there's no hope for you or you suck so bad that I don't want to talk to you. It's not about that. You've either got a winner mindset or a loser mindset. And that's a mindset.
Yeah.
It's not a label. It's just how you're thinking right now. Just because you're thinking that way doesn't make you a forever loser.
Yeah.
In a split second, you can shift to a winning mindset. And so the only time you're a loser is when you're not thinking like a winner.
Yeah. And there's hundreds of examples of that, right? There's,
Millions.
Addicts and all kinds of things that have turned their life around and have sorted themselves out. People who have been huge winners who then became huge losers who then came back to it. Like there's millions of examples. You can go all over the place with that. But so let's keep going here. We got my interactions with my kids are the reason for that question. Okay, that makes sense. Is that accountability was took a long, hard look and realized I wasn't taking accountability for what I was doing. 100%. Same boat. I hear you. I was there too. James says, much like respect being earned and not just given out. Now, that's an interesting one too, because I was always told you have to give respect to get respect.
That's what I was told, but I always disagreed with that.
I also disagreed with it too. And I think that if you respect yourself, then you will have an air of respect and people will either respect you or not. And that's up to them.
I agree, except that there's a step before that. You've got to respect yourself for sure, but you've got to earn your own respect of yourself before you can start acting like you deserve respect.
Absolutely. That's part of the little wins too. right? The more little wins you have, the more confident you become in your own skill set. And that's why martial arts are great. Any martial art really is just it gives you confidence in yourself and your skill set and your abilities and your et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which I think bleeds into respect.
I
Sat
do, but
said,
that's before we bump into something
yep.
else, it's an underrated comment. It's an underrated way to live your life. To me, it's one of the central pillars of how I think.
Hmm.
If someone wants my respect, earn it.
Yeah.
I don't hand it out like candy.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that if I meet someone and they if they're a good person, it's not that I'm going to give them instant respect. I'm going to appreciate them until they present enough that they start earning my respect.
Mm,
That as they do whatever they do, it might take me 10 seconds to think respect.
yeah.
It might take me 10 years where I think respect. The timeline is immaterial. The fact is that I just don't hand respect out like candy grams. And there's a wild difference between clicking like on someone's message
Hmm.
and me respecting them.
Yeah.
Now, they can operate in conjunction. Like I can be introduced to someone on social media as an example, and if I take a look at their feed or whatever, and within about 10 seconds I'm thinking legit.
Hmm.
Now they've got my respect within 10 seconds. But if I'm on social media and I'm scanning through someone's feed and I think, I'm going to keep an eye on this, they ain't getting my respect just because they had green can paint on.
Yeah.
They ain't, I'll respect their service, but that doesn't mean I've got to respect them
Hmm.
because they could be running their program contrary or completely polar opposite to what I think is appropriate. So it's not that I'm going to respect their way, I'll respect their service.
Yeah.
And over time, that observation of me eyeballing them for day after day, month after month, not me chirping at them, me just casually lurking in the background. If I see them swinging in the right direction towards that North Star correctly, now they're going to get my respect. And they may not even know it, but it's got to be earned,
Yeah.
not just given.
I think there's uh, there's a mixture happening here, and I think respect and is kind of put in place of um, I just forgot the word, but it's like decency, like common kindness, being able to interact with people on a higher level, right? Where can't remember the word for it right now, but I think the word respect is thrown around as in like a courtesy in how I interact with you on a daily basis, right? And I can be courteous to someone without
There's respectful, which is a
respectful.
completely different
Yes.
word,
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
get my respect.
Yes. And I think that's the big one is that where we say, respect needs to be earned and not given, or you need to give respect to get respect. I think that really comes more along the lines of courtesy than it is actual respect.
Well, look, you can be respectful all day long to me.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean you get my respect.
exactly. Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
means that I appreciate you being uh, non-confrontational.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that ever going to give you my respect. But on the same token, if you're being respectful, and in 10 seconds of you being respectful, if I look at you and think, that's a good dude,
Hmm.
that dude's legit, I dig this guy. Now I'm respecting him.
Yeah.
It's not the amount of respectfulness that I got. It's nice if someone's respectful. I try to be respectful in the
Hmm.
proper moments, but that doesn't build respect. So they're two different words.
I couldn't agree more. I think they get mixed up too often. I think they get replaced in and amongst each other. So I think that should be something we need to keep our eye
And
on.
and not to put too fine a point on it, but the example that always comes to mind is when a young platoon lieutenant, second lieutenant would come into the infantry platoon or whatever, a young officer. And by the way, some highly seasoned officers, I would be respectful to some degree. That didn't mean they ever got my respect. Quite the
Yeah.
contrary. If I thought that you weren't pulling your weight, I was disdainful.
Mm.
I
I,
I might be saluting you, but you know that I'm being disdainful
yeah, there'd be
because
of it. Yeah.
you aren't representing the way you should represent, and
Yeah.
therefore you ain't getting my respect.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how you can glean not quite disrespect, but uh I can't think of the word again right now, but in a salute, you can give a highly respectful salute with zero respect in it. You know what I
100%.
mean? So it's
I could snap out a salute that is picture perfect,
hmm
that could be used as a video to
in the drill
demonstrate the
manual. Yeah.
high standards of what a salute looks like. But in the nuance of it, you won't see it in the video, but you'll see it in my eyes as I look that guy in the eye. He knows
Yeah.
what's up.
hmm Yeah. That's the one thing about drill, man. I always told the cadets that came through when we were teaching them is like your drill says something about you right off the hop.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, it does. But you know
Yeah.
what? Before any of that drill happens, there's something said about you before you even
Oh,
enter onto the parade square.
100%. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, I think we covered that point pretty well. Um, Carrying on, Satch says, for me, accountability is something that is ongoing. Look back at what I've done for the day and ask myself, how could I have done things better? So perhaps thinking I was being accountable, but after reflection, I can be more accountable. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we're yeah, he's bang on.
Yep.
And so yesterday I think I framed accountability through the lens of you've got a yardstick. It's called the past. And how you want to observe the past over a certain timeline, whether it's a day, which, I think what I said yesterday is this: if you're yardsticking it by the past, pick much further back in the past, like a year or 10
hmm
years, in order to get accountability on who you are now and who you were then. Who you are right now in the real time and who you were this morning about 2 hours ago or last night about 12 hours ago. That's not really what I consider to be true accountability. Those are micro nuances that you're micro recalibrating. But accountability to me is when you look in the past, it's over a longer timeline in order to form a truer trend. And
Yeah.
so with Satch, I think he could easily look back at a year ago and think, wow, I'm doing so much better today. I'm crushing it today in context of a year ago. But you can't say that about last night.
hmm
You can't look at this morning 2 hours ago and think, wow, I'm really crushing it compared to where I was 2 hours ago. So accountability is something that I believe when you're looking backwards requires more of a timeline trend.
Yeah.
When you're making tiny little corrections on how to do your day better, I think that's less accountability. That those are just micro corrections.
hmm
But I'd also said yesterday that if you want to be accountable in the real time, you've got to live now, right now, not a
hmm
second ago, not a second in the future. It's got to be now. This is where we're at in
hmm
the real time. So if you want to truly be accountable, do your best right now as you're listening to this
Yeah.
in real time. That's where you got to do your best. That's where you're accountable is in the real time. The
hmm
past is for reflection on how to yardstick accountability, I think.
It's a great point. And like right here, Winterstorm says true accountability is doing it properly and to a high standard, even when no one will ever know you did it. Now, I have one
100%.
point on that. I have a point on that. And I want to challenge you
Cool.
on this.
Bring it.
True accountability is doing it properly and to a high standard because there will always be one person that will know,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's not
that's
about
not
no one
even
ever knowing.
challenging.
No, it's not challenging,
That's
but
just
I
a
just
head nod.
it but it I think this gets thrown around a lot too, is like doing something when no one's watching. But here's the deal. Someone's always watching, and that's you,
Oh yeah.
right? I'm always watching what I'm doing. And if I want to be truly accountable, I need to do it at a high standard because I am watching.
And somehow you couldn't make your bed.
and somehow I couldn't, but I did eventually. So I
Yeah,
did pretty good
yeah, but
eventually.
not as you just
Not as
described.
no, absolutely, and this is where, you have to understand that it's not a, I don't think it's a switch one day, right?
Oh, it
It
it is, if you
it
want
is a
it to
switch.
be.
Well, if you want it to be, sure, yeah.
Like, in the next millisecond.
In this millisecond right now as I'm speaking, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all up to you, and I don't mean you, Chance. I mean, it's all up to you, whoever's listening.
It's all
It's
up to
all up
me.
to us. It's all up to us.
Yeah.
You wanna change your game? Change it.
That
Now.
yeah. It really
Right
is that,
then.
yeah. I saw this, video on one of the Instagram reels, and it's from a movie. I can't remember what movie it is, but it's an interview between, somebody and, like, a shop owner, and they asked the person, "What was the biggest lie you've ever heard?" And the guy says, "It's not that simple." And the reporter says, "What's not that simple?" And he's like, "No, that's the biggest lie I was ever told, is that it's not that simple, because it is. It truly 100% is that simple. Just change. Do it." It's that simple.
Yeah.
All right,
Can you put
let's
that
see here.
question back up again?
I
Sorry.
can true accountability, doing it
Yeah,
properly.
so, the part that I wanted to focus on, thank you again, Winter Storm 427, bringing
Mhm.
that heat. Come on, someone out there has gotta be bringing game against Winter Storm
Oh,
427. Someone.
we got a dozen more comments, so don't worry, we're
Perfect.
coming.
Okay, so, it's true. True accountability is doing it properly and to a high standard even when no one will ever know you did it, and so, I think that these moments arise for everyone, and I can think of moments in my past where I've been out in the middle of nowhere doing that thing or whatever, and it's hard times, and you know that you can shortcut it. And I'll use an example of 24-hour solo mountain bike racing. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You're all by yourself. It's pitch black. There's a course in front of you, and that course is fixed. It's marked. There's no deviation off the course. And as you pass someone in the pitch black, other than your night helmet light, you pass someone and now they're off your rear view mirror. Now you're not really hearing them. And as you come up around a loop and you're hooking a hard left or whatever the case is, the person who's behind you, you can't hear them anymore because they just shortcut the course
Mm.
because no one was watching them, because it's dark, because there's no one to see them shortcutting. There's no one to see that they're not being accountable to themselves. They're not meeting the high standard of the rule set. They're shortcutting their own life. Now, what they don't realize in that moment is they shortcutted because they were being lazy, of course.
Mhm.
It's not a problem for them in the moment as they're doing it, perhaps. Maybe they had a little bit of a struggle and think, man, I'm struggling so hard. I've got to cut the course to make up time to do whatever. So somehow they got right with it and they shortcut the course. Tell you what, 10 years later, it's all up in their head. I
Mhm.
suck. Why did I do that? That was so weak. I'm a shortcutter. And it's not an easy thing to process 10 years. I don't have to worry about that because, you know, I got to watch the shortcutter shortcut. And that kind of makes me smile because in the moment I'm thinking like, dude, you suck, but man, you're going to suck 10 years from
Yeah,
now.
this is gonna hurt a while later, yeah. Oh, man, that's a great example.
Yeah. So, if you think no one's watching, that's cool. And if you're not meeting the high standard, that's cool. Whatever. You don't think it's a big deal? That's cool. You're going to pay the price later.
Mhm. And I definitely have. There were times I shortcutted while I was, training, and I know it. I know it. That's the thing. That's why I brought up the point that, like,
Mm.
you're still watching. You still
Er,
know.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's see here. James says, "That's what I'm learning now. Be the best for yourself." Absolutely. Doesn't matter what others think, just as long as you know that you've put your best effort and your best foot forward to make yourself better.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. No one, I mean, if you're that dude, and this is just, I mean, I'm not even thinking of anyone. I'm just using a metaphoric comment now. If you're that dude who rolls out of bed and puts your feet into the Dorito bag slippers and looks around, think, wow, how did my life get to this? And then you just keep on wearing Dorito bag slippers for the rest of your life. y- y- when you look down at your slippers and think, I should do something about this, and then you decide to do something about this, it doesn't mean that within 10 seconds you've got to be Jason Bourne.
Hmm.
I mean, just kick the slippers off. That's a good start.
Take them and
And
put them in
then
the garbage.
tomorrow, let's see what shows up. How you can
Yeah.
start chipping away at your best effort, and don't worry about, your room might not be clean for a week or two, whatever.
Hmm.
Just start cleaning.
Yep.
And then over a period of time, you'll make the improvements. And over a period of time, it's a year later, 6 months later, whatever. Now you can look back on your body of work and see the trend over the timeline of improvement. And guess what? You're not going to be Jason Bourne 6 months from now or ever. Because, I
Hmm.
mean, who could be Jason Bourne
Other than you.
other than Hollywood? So,
uh,
like you don't have to turn into a superhero within a week, but you can become a superhero by stop wearing freaking Dorito bag slippers.
I think I kind of want to make some Dorito bag slippers just to send
Dude,
them to you.
honestly, I'm loving this Dorito bag
Right?
slipper routine.
Okay, so Winter Storm bringing more. It says, and to build on what James says, often when you are trying to do your best, there will be people who disapprove and try to dissuade because it makes them feel bad when
Oh,
they
I love that.
reflect. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And you will have to fight them, and not like physically fight them, but you will have to fight their jeers and their comments and their thoughts and their um oh man, just all the little snippets and the
Yeah,
passive
you will.
aggressiveness
So
and
how
all
do you
kinds of
do
stuff.
that?
Ooh, so let's just
Because I know how I do it.
well, you tell me how you do it and I'll tell you how I do
Negative.
it. Okay, so how I manage it is the big one that or the one line that actually I've been using for the last little while is
We'll throw that comment back up so that everyone
okay.
can refer to the comment and
There
your
we go. Good
explanation.
call.
Thank you.
Um, the the point that I always use is I've been there. I've been there. I've had those thoughts in my head of that guy or this thing or whatever. And I recognize that once you recognize that the the mindset is achievable in a negative way, but like
Mm,
it's a real thing,
mm.
that allows me to go, okay, well, they're making decisions based off of what they know, and they don't know what I know. Therefore, I don't really care. And one of the points I told my wife at one point was like, she was saying, "Oh, this person at work was complaining about what I do and blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera." And I said, "Would you take advice from that person?" And she said, "No." And I was like, "Well, then why are you accepting their criticism?" Because it's a two-way street, right? If you would not accept their opinion in a positive manner, they were trying to give you advice, then why would you accept their opinion negatively? And once I realized that, I was like, I if I if I do not care for your opinion, I'll listen to you, sure, and I'll take in what you're saying, and if it doesn't align with what I'm saying, with what I'm thinking, then bleh, out it goes. That's what I do. What do
Mm.
you do?
Well, first of all, if someone's got a problem with the way I'm running my program, that's on them
Yep.
because I'm doing me. And my program, though not amazing, maybe not even notable, it's got me to a few places.
One or two.
And I've done a few
Couple,
things. And
maybe one or two
I'm
things.
I'm no rock star because there's dudes who are freaking rock stars,
Hmm.
and I'm not it. But the way I've run things, it's been okay. And so I know that to be true. And so when someone is having problems with how I'm doing things and they disapprove with how I'm doing things and they're trying to convince me that my way is the wrong way, I just got to look back on my body of work and think, really? So so you're an army cadet thinking about joining, are you?
Hmm.
And you think that my program doesn't work for me? Well, it did. You don't need my program. I don't even have a program to hand you, army cadet.
Hmm.
But what I do know is I've figured a few things out. And so anyone can try and disprove or disapprove of me or try to dissuade me. But when they start doing that, this is where my head goes. Cool. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep representing. And somewhere along the line, you're going to see through leadership by example that I ain't joking. I will get results and
Mhm.
you will see those results. And if you want to ignore those results, we can keep doing this game of you disapproving, observing results, and disapproving and observing results. And where I will move from the time they start disapproving will be forward.
Mhm.
And where they will move is nowhere
Mhm. At best.
at best.
Yeah, they'll move
Backslide is the
nowhere, right.
first thing that came to mind, of
Mhm.
course, but at best, they won't move anywhere. And
Yeah.
so, you can have that conversation of they're disapproving and they're trying to dissuade me and etc. Cool. We just had that conversation. Let's see where things are at in a year.
Yeah. Yeah. That that's basically it. And the comment that they feel threatened by your progress. 100%.
Yeah.
It's
And
it's
it's weird and it's wrong and it's bizarre and it's inverted. And what should be happening is if and this is what I do, if I see someone progressing out there, I mean, how can you even be threatened by that? You should be like, I'm not a cheerleader. That's just not my style.
really,
But
you
when
don't
I
have
s-
pom-poms
what
in the garage?
that's right. But when I see someone progressing, this is what I think. Good.
Yeah. I'm the same way. And actually very recently, uh I saw some people doing it right as far as I consider that hadn't been doing it right previously. And I was like, yeah, all right, get some.
Yeah,
Like,
for
give her,
sure.
man. What else we got? It's easier to tell you to stop pushing or achieving than it is to get up themselves, push, and possibly fail. 100%. Yeah, that
Yeah.
goes carries on. Um, Here we go. Definitely. People criticize and ask questions as if in a position of authority and competence, but often actually from a place of weakness, ignorance, and envy. Ooh, yeah,
I love that comment,
that's
and
a great
and I
one.
love it because it's true.
Yeah.
And but okay, so what? So now you get to decide what you want to do with that. Like if someone's coming at me from a position of
Ooh.
weakness, ignorance, and envy, okay, now I get to decide what I want to do with that person or how
Hmm.
I want to interact with them. Or do I even want to interact with them? I guess it all depends on the moment, like if someone comes at me hard and they're just being a goof, depending like I'm not trying to solve all of the world's problems all the time. Like if you're a goof and I just don't have the time to deal with how goofy you are, I'll probably just bounce.
Yeah. There
But
are
if
8
I've got the
billion people.
That's right. But if I've got the time and I think that in rapid fashion I can get to the core of the problem where that bro hemo who's come at me hard from his weakness, ignorance, and envy.
Hmm.
If I can think to myself, all right, I'm going to try to turn this guy around, lickety split. And if I'm like 3 minutes into it, 4 minutes into it, and I realize it's a no go, then I'm going to bounce.
Yeah.
But if I can try to change a guy, then I'm going to try because I know that by changing him in some small way, now he's changed. And there's no one seeing that. Once you're a brohemo who's changed a little bit, now you get to process the goodness of that change. And
Mm.
then you're screwed. Now you get to face yourself and think, yeah, there actually is a better way to do this. Now what do I do about it?
Yep.
Because now you get to be super weak in front of yourself by saying, oh, there is a better way. Oh, I just had a taste of better. And now I'm gonna go back to sucking.
Go put those slippers back on.
Let's go find your Dorito slippers.
Here's one from, you guessed it, Winterstorm 427. Envy is the would have, should have poison of being better.
Oh, dude, it woulda,
That
shoulda,
is a
coulda.
great line.
So
Whew.
good.
Oh man, I'm gonna save that and we're gonna use that later for something. But
Agreed.
man, that was great. With the question I marked, how important is it to obtain balance, either in self, family, work? That's a great question. We're almost out of time. Do you want to dive into this real quick, or
No,
do we
let's
want to
save
save it
that.
for? Okay,
That's a good one.
because we got a couple
I mean,
here.
they're all good one, but
Man, they've
but
been got fire today, man. There's
That
like
that one
this.
just requires a bit more time.
Yeah, there's some depth in there. So Daniel, we'll get to that tomorrow's episode for sure. Being the best version of yourself every day, as per Shaun's previous statements. Always good to do that.
And it's not
Um,
hard. I
no,
mean, it isn't hard, honestly. And this is not directed at Daniel or anyone in particular. It's directed at me for goodness sakes. It's not that hard. You just got to do your best. It doesn't mean that you're not cracking home runs every second. Maybe not even every hour. Maybe
hmm
not even that day. That isn't important. It's your freaking head.
yeah,
This is the only thing that's running this entire universe right now is what your mind's thinking right now. And you get to decide, like right now, this second, right in real time, do I want to suck or do I want to win?
yep,
Do I want to be awesome or do I want to be a goof? I mean, we can use the opposites of each other, winner, loser, suck, blah blah blah. You get to decide. You want to use really rough language like winner and loser? If that's what it takes to move your needle in the real time and make a choice, make a choice. Do you want to be a winner or do you want to be a loser? Then the rest takes care of itself. As long as you keep in your mind in real time, do your best, do your best, do your best. The rest takes care of itself.
it 100% will. And actually, as you were talking, you used the home run analogy. The best, the best, the most skilled baseball players in the world have a batting average of around 300. Right? That
That
means
that means nothing to me because I don't even watch baseball, so I don't know.
so. What I mean by that is that these guys, the people at the top echelon of baseball, they're hitting a third of the pitches thrown to them. Right? So, and not all of those are home runs. Actually, in fact, most of them aren't home runs. You're talking, uh, I don't know what the record is right now because I'm not a huge baseball fan, but um, you're 70, 80 home runs out of thousands of pitches thrown. So when you're not hitting home runs every single day, yeah, that's part, that's part of the deal, right? You're going to take pitches you're going to miss. You're going to take pitches that think are going to be balls and they're going to be strikes. And like there's lots of analogies there, but the
Well,
key
there
thing is,
isn't, and fascinatingly to me, because I don't know much about baseball.
Mhm,
You know, literally the guys who are cracking home runs, and let's say they're cracking a home run 10% of the time.
mhm.
If their batting average is 30% or whatever, and some of those, well, not all of those will be home runs. So let's say it's 10% of the time. I wonder if I got to talk to 100 baseball players at the tip of the spear within baseball, I
Mhm.
wonder how many of those guys are thinking that day, I'm a winner or I'm a loser.
Mm, that's an interesting thought.
That's just a thought experiment. We'll never
Yeah,
get an answer.
I might. Hey, you never know, man. I talk to a lot of people. I might be able to find a baseball player at the
Oh
40 to
yeah,
actually ask that
when was the
question.
last time you talked to the New York Yankees?
Never, but
Right.
that doesn't mean that I won't at some point
Well, pick up the
eventually.
pace, Burles.
Roger that, Warren. I'll get right on it. I'll get somebody in here. If anybody knows any baseball players, hook me up.
Like top level baseball
Top level
players.
yeah, not just like AAA or anything. We're
Yeah,
going
and not
the
like
big
this,
leagues.
not this paltry 300 or whatever. We want 970.
Yeah, see, nobody hits that.
I don't even know what it means.
So, okay, just a quick little lesson for you. It's out of 1,000, like a 1%, right?
Oh,
So
okay, yes,
out of one,
yes.
so however many
30% then.
30%. Yeah. So when they
Yeah,
say
sorry.
batting 300, they just go into the thousands.
Go find someone who's 97% Burles.
Yeah. There's no such person that exists
I'll
unless
start
you
looking.
started playing baseball.
No,
I think
not
you
at
should
all.
start playing.
I was not good at baseball when I was coming up in high school.
Yeah,
It just wasn't my sport. Indoor and outdoor soccer was my sport. So I
that's
only
good.
played baseball if it was mandatory within PT or
Mm,
within physical training as a class in high school. And I played softball where, just nice casual lob. And then we played some hardball, which was not my cup of tea. And I'll tell you why. Because when I was a young boy growing up in England, we used to play cricket as well.
Mm.
and I played. I think it's called mid silly wicket or something like that, which means that you
Cricket is
know
hilarious.
I'm 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 standing there like at 8 or 9 years old
Yeah.
with no like just ready to catch a cracking hard ball being smacked off of a cricket bat at
Yep.
warp factor 3 at me about 6 feet away from the cricket. Like pick a worse spot
I
within a
got
cricket
it.
team, and that was me. And why was I put there? Because the PT teacher said to me, "Shaun, you're fast."
Hmm.
Dude, that doesn't make me invincible. It just means that you put me in a spot that I'm not keen on. And so I'll say this: that through cricket, I realized that really hard balls thrown at you really, really fast hurt.
They
So
hurt.
I wasn't a
Yeah.
big fan of getting involved in hardball baseball. I kind of like
Yeah.
soccer.
Soccer was fun. It's funny. The big ones, the sports that I got into were track. I didn't do a lot of, like, I played football a little bit in high school, and I played
What was your
soccer.
go-to?
Uh, Initially, it was discus. That was my big
Oh,
one
cool.
because I got long arms and I could spin really well, and I had those.
Dude, as you were spinning around about to throw that thing, you were already 70 feet down the field just with the length of your arms.
Oh yeah, exactly. It was basically an unfair advantage, but
Yeah, it's not
um,
right.
those were that was
You're a
my
cheater.
that was my go-to, and then high jump, long jump, some of the long distance running, stuff like that. And then I got hit by a car in junior high, and it messed up
Mm,
my knees. And since
mm,
then, I never couldn't do the long distance stuff. And even then, I still joined the army, still ran all
mm,
that stuff there,
mm.
but I couldn't run at the speed that you need to run for like track events.
I don't know if I ever told you, speaking of car accidents, I
Mm.
can tell this story another time, but I fell out of a car when I was or out of a truck that my dad was driving. We were doing about 60 miles an hour down a highway.
Ooh,
I was
yeah, that do it.
asleep, leaning on the door. The door opened. I woke up in midair, hit the hit the highway at 60 miles an hour, and almost got run over by a truck. That's a whole different story. I'll save for another
Mm.
time.
Dang, yeah, that's yeah, mine was a little less exciting. Like, I won't go into it right now, but that was the first time I got hit by a car. I got a second one after that too. People started being like, "Dude, you know you shouldn't get like in front of the cars, right?"
Well, you know why you're being hit? Because you're a freaking big bird.
Right? Exactly. Big bird all the way. So we have another couple questions. I'm just going to put them up so we
It's
can think about them for
102.
next.
We can
I
think
know.
about it for, yeah, or at
Well,
least get the juices flowing.
yeah, and we'll jump on these tomorrow. So again, winter storm, throwing fire. For a winter storm, throwing fire. First off, I think maybe you need to change your name a little bit, but whatever. Touching base on respect and accountability. Have either of you faltered on your accountability trying to gain someone's respect? Ooh, that's a good question.
Good question for tomorrow.
We're Yeah, we're gonna go into that
I'm
tomorrow,
not
and
even going
then
to give it any thought.
yeah.
I just recognize that it's a good question, but I'm not going to think about it.
And the next one, interested in what your thoughts would be. A few years back, a high rank purse stated that the difference between reg members and CanSoftCon purse is that they master the basics. I think I've said that a couple of times, but we'll dive into that a little bit
Yeah,
more
I've
tomorrow.
got a little bit more to add to that, but
Yeah,
yeah, we'll save that for tomorrow.
for sure. Yeah, those are some great questions. And again, everybody, first off, thank you all for being on here. Thank
Yeah.
you guys for throwing fire left, right, and center. We got lots of great questions in here. The last three I'm saving for tomorrow. We'll put them up, and if we have any guests on there, they'll get a chance to get thrown into the fire as well.
Get some guest
Uh,
line up, pal.
I'm working on it.
What the
Working on
heck?
it.
Dude, you got so many things to do today.
I do actually, but I got a couple of things. Whatever. Yeah, I can't thank you guys enough for being out here, for watching, and it's always fun to talk about this stuff. And I just like sitting here listening to Shaun. Mostly,
Dude,
that's my thing.
I like listening to you. It's not that man, you know my deal. I'm here. I'm not here to give the wisdom. I'm here to get the wisdom. And so it doesn't matter how wise or not I am. I always come out of these things just a touch wiser.
Yeah, I think that's the mindset too, right? As long as we can go into a conversation and come out with a little bit, regardless of that conversation, that's a benefit. That's how you get better. We got some awesome comments at the end here. Trying to be on when I'm off.
And by the way, the it's not just you and I, of course, as the comments are coming up.
Hmm.
It's characters that are getting engaged in this process, and Like, I'm getting
Absolutely.
smarter from people that I may never ever meet.
Hmm.
I dig it.
I mean, I'm getting smarter just from the fact of the hard questions being asked. Like
Mm.
these are
That one almost broke me yesterday, buddy.
that was a good one, dude.
I actually felt a small fracture running through me.
Going down your spine a little bit. Oh, that was tight.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
quite hear a crack, but there was a minor fracture.
All right. Well, again, from the collective, from me and Sean and everyone in the back of the house or the back room here that I'm in, I can't thank you all enough for joining us. We will see you tomorrow as we continue to learn, build, and grow. Chimo.
Chimo.